What's this one called?
Nepenthe.
Ruben.
Nepenthe, yeah. The name
Did
of
you know that Nepenthe is a real word?
Yes. I did not, and I was really curious to know if it was. That was something I thought it must be some kind of Greek.
It is. It's an ancient Greek word for a myth. It's like a fictional plant that's used to forget sorrow.
Lovely.
So let's forget your dead kids and burn some pizzas. It's time for the Check for Traps review of Star Trek Picard in Nepenthe.
Episode 7.
Episode 7.
It is indeed. We're so close to the conclusion.
It's been a long road.
No.
And yet very little has happened.
I do like that every episode of this starts with a recap, and it's like just doesn't, but never mentions the first 3 episodes because nothing really happened. Like, the first 3 episodes were happened. Picard is old. Very good. Probably the shortest flashback yet. At the start of this episode, it's only 3 weeks ago to when Agnes met with Commodore Oh She's Up to No Good outside the
might we say that you called it emphatically
Commodore Yoda, and that's just, she gets more fantastic every time I see her. I want her to be a main character who's in every episode where she's walking around with her sunglasses, preferably doing some kind of like kung fu or something.
Never changing her
really
facial
good
expression. Agnes and O are having a discussion where O essentially gives away that Starfleet security knows everything that Agnes has ever done, and it's fully aware that she's been meeting with Picard. She's asked to go off with Picard and go off and follow him around the galaxy as sort of O's agent, I guess. And Agnes says, well, why would I? I don't want to go off world. And O mind melds the visions of an apocalypse into Agnes's brain, which gives her a tactical chunder. I slowed down some of the vision. I think it's Commodore O in like a hoodie. And the planet explodes, and there's lots of shots of I think there's a Romulan shooting himself in the head, and I think O clawing at her own face as City and the stuff blowing up. It was a bit Event Horizon.
I was hoping you were going to say Merlin, which is
no, it wasn't
one of my favourite films. Yeah,
the bit where O turns her back on Soji and stops believing in her, so she fades away. Fine. I mean, we now know that Agnes has been got. She's been got to by the G-men. I thought when O hands over the glowy thing, which is a tracker, and says "take this," I didn't realise that she actually meant take it like a pill.
Yeah, we thought the same thing. Take it was like as a suppository.
Did you not think the way it was shot, was it just sort of made it seem like she had put it in her mouth without any instruction?
Yeah, it definitely was.
So
unless it's a known thing.
Yeah, because she says take it, then she starts eating it, and then O says it must be chewed, which makes you think that they've shot that scene, and then they've jiggled around some of the cuts, and then not actually played it through and realised it makes no sense.
It straight in.
It was very poor editing. I think.
Maybe she was just really hungry.
Do you eat any given blue glowing cube you're given? I know I don't.
Yeah, right. In the future is that you track people by giving them chewable vitamins,
which we then discussed later, saying that wouldn't it exit your system quite quickly?
James Bond's super blood didn't in Spectre, so she's probably all right.
Yeah, that's sound logic to me.
You know how when you eat chewing gum, it sits in your stomach for 7 years.
Oh.
You know,
but it must be chewed.
Yeah.
Quite sure that's not
true.
true.
It's true that if you swallow your fingernails, it grows fingers inside you. This is all true.
There's a finger tree.
Yeah. Cut you open with spaghetti.
Full of chewing gum and fingers.
Don't you agree that injecting or any other method of tracking might have been preferable? A watch or
you can drop a watch.
I guess you can. You can shit out.
If only everyone in this franchise had some kind of marker or badge that they had pinned to their lapel that could be used to communicate over long distances.
Yeah, Janzé, she's a scientist.
It would be very.
Well,
that would definitely
Picard's got
give it
one.
away if Agnes has turned up with a Starfleet badge. She's like, "What's that? Nothing."
I'm cosplaying as you.
Occasionally it tickles through, and O's like, "Agnes, are you alone?" To tell you more about the robots, Agnes. Agnes.
Are you alone?
The black cat dances at midnight.
Is that a crow? I thought the mind melding was really bizarre as well, because they mention every time someone gets mind melded when it isn't Vulcan to Vulcan, they always say, we shouldn't do this, it's going to be dangerous, mind melding you could kill you, it's a horrible experience and no non-Vulcan should experience it. But in this situation, it's just like, give me your face, bitch, and it just melts.
I also seem to recall that
no warning at
Spock
all.
failed to mind meld people quite a lot in TOS. I was surprised that it was such a guarantee.
Yeah, just sucked in her face like a little barnacle.
Quite a lot.
I guess maybe Spock was half Vulcan, so maybe that was part of the issue. I don't know.
And there's usually a lot more ritual to it as well, isn't there?
Some of that could just be like Tuvok being an annoying stickler for the rules.
Might I say that Commodore does not appear in the Star Trek novelization, The Last Best Hope, which I've now read.
We're back on the ship, which still hasn't been named. Rios and Raffi are stuck in a tractor beam by the cube, and they've started yelling at each other like a married couple. Finally, Vindication, one of his carefully stowed boxes does slide down the ship.
That was, I thought of you when that happened.
Yes.
I was like, perfect.
Why does your cargo Fraser not have any cargo space? You just strap it to the side of the hull. It's just stupid.
Well, it's like the entire thing is cargo space, but as such, none of it really.
Raffi is ordered to hack the traffic control, which seems definitely something you can't just do. She complains about the freaky Borg computer language, and then she seems to somehow accidentally hacked into like the CCTV for a mad person's cell, and there's a little zoom
Yeah, what
in.
was that? Was she looking in like the XB quotation marks' cell where they do all that mad drawing?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, was that Rhonda the Romulan's cell?
Why would that be something that is being monitored, like pointing directly at the wall?
Maybe she
place
sort of zooms in. I think it shows the whole cell. Maybe she was just hitting any like open webcam she could find. She's like, God, one of these has to be helpful. Please, let one of these be helpful. Well, it's not the first time we've seen Raffi look at something on a CCTV feed that will then come back later, so I'm sure this will as well. Agnes suggests throwing Picard and Soji under the bus and just being like, well, tell them that we don't care, we want to go home.
That was really funny. I want to go home to Earth. Please turn this ship around. I really enjoy Agnes trying to be sneaky because she is so terrible at it, but she's terrible at it in a really believable way, which I rate. Even though I said like I don't think she's that good at Star Trek characters, she's actually just quite a good character.
We're on the cube, and Lieutenant Rat is interrogating Hugh, who didn't die in the shot last time.
It's almost as if that scene last time never happened, isn't it?
Yeah,
really?
did you have trouble parsing where, because they were standing alongside by each other, where Elnor says, "Choose to live, my friends." But then the next shot is Hugh being interrogated and Elnor not being with him. I mean, so did they like stand side by side each other? And he was like, "All right, now I'm going to run away. Choose to live, my friend." Again.
Well, I guess Elnor has parkour powers and Hugh doesn't.
But I'd be even more furious if I was Hugh, and then my parkour ninja friend ran off without me and left me to get interrogated.
So Hugh is being interrogated. Whenever he doesn't give Lieutenant Rat an answer, she shoots one of the XBs, and Hugh doesn't break until the point where she just shoots all of them. She just executes all these XBs in front of him, and in a way that feels like, well, now he's got no leverage at all.
Yes, that's what I thought as well. I thought if you're supposed to be the secret police, then the first rule would surely be don't squander your one advantage.
I mean, there's probably more XBs where those came from. But before this interrogation continues, we get a shot of Narek in his little battle outfit. He's got epaulets and everything, and another deeply unsafe, unguardrailed walkway jumping in a little Romulan shuttle, which for some reason reminded me of one of those gold ships, not the Death Gliders, but the other ones, the slightly bigger ones, Al-Kesh or something. I don't really know why.
I can believe it.
He jumps in. Lieutenant Rat is giving Hugh a bad time about, failing and how all these XBs are dead because of him and how trillions of people are going to die.
Trying to guilt trip him.
She should just kill him, but she can't because he's technically a citizen of the Federation and there's a treaty stopping her from doing that.
But the fact that she's murdered all of these other XBs is apparently of no consequence, but she can't kill this guy because he's Federation.
The XBs were liberated on a Romulan-owned soil, if you like, so they don't have citizenship because, as far as Rom's concerned, they don't exist.
Is that how it works? They're like outlaws; they can just be freely murdered at will.
I guess they're stateless, aren't they?
So it's up to the Romans what they do with them. And under the treaty, if Hugh has been granted asylum by the Federation, then it's irrelevant that he's an XB. Really, it's the citizenship that comes first.
I do feel like the shadowy league of evil ninjas could probably just off him anyway and chuck him in a ditch or something. Isn't that the point of being a shadowy ninja? I suppose
he's quite high, he's quite public, and I suppose if the Federation are keeping an eye on it, like, well, where's Director Hugh? And she's like, fell in a Borg pit.
Can't kill off Mr. Hugh Man.
He tried to do the Borg ritual, you slide down the hallway and fell over and cracked his head open.
He slipped on a glacé cherry and died.
And fell onto a disruptor rifle 14 times. He kept falling, getting up and falling again. Oh, it was horrible. Narek jumps in his little shuttle and gets a manual steering column and zooms out into the space. Again, it seems like he's just in a little car. Just brums off.
Yeah, I thought this.
Yeah, the little go-kart in
Well, it's the
space.
fact he was only using it one-handed as well.
Yeah.
I thought that was really strange. He was like adjusting his cube.
Narek reports back to Lieutenant Rat that he's got a strong lock on whatever. I guess we're meant to assume it's the blue triangle, the quality street that Agnes ate earlier, but it could be anything. And Rizzo demands that the tractor beam is turned off, and our gang are about to warp out, and they remember, oh yeah, Elnor. We should probably pick up Elnor.
Oh yeah,
hang
we
on.
got that Elrond guy here.
They message him, and he's saying, no, I'm going to stay here because they've been murdering the XBs in that brew. And this is the...
I love myself a good lost
Oh,
cause.
I've got to go and stab some people. I think this may mark the first and only time they're nice to Elnor, where they say he's very brave.
And begrudgingly.
Yeah, they said it in the way that when your mum tells you you're very special, it was like that.
But yeah, no, I agree. They give him a nice send-off for that person that they only ever derided and didn't really get to know. I hope he has a good time on the cube. I said to Ruben, that's definitely, strategic screenplay placement, like now we have a person on the cube. But I said...
Maybe they've realised he's a dreadful character and they're putting him in a dangerous situation so they can kill him
Well,
off.
this is...
I reckon
He's going to be in it till the end, or at least he's going to be on the Borg cube leading some sort of weird guerrilla movement until the end.
Maybe he can get the Borg cube moving. And
That would be so
driving the
funny
cube
if
around,
all it took was absolute candor to
Yeah.
get the Borg cube moving.
leaning out one of the windows with his sword, slicing at birds of prey as they go past. The gang warp off, triumph to the theme music, and then Narek follows along in his little bitty little shuttle from the Jetsons. And we go into intro. Obviously, it's a trap. I think Raffi even like clocks it. It's a trap. And as soon as the tractor beam's turned off, she just goes, "This is clearly a trap."
Yeah.
Like,
they're-
obviously,
they're-
everybody else goes, "Yep, sure is." Like, everyone just knows what everyone else is doing. There's no subterfuge anymore.
I guess the problem is when your antagonist is set up to be the sneaky people who always lie. It's like, oh well, I guess they're lying again, like they do constantly.
I mean, this might just be me, but first Star Wars reference to the episode.
Yeah, what the fuck?
It's like when Vader lets the Millennium Falcon go so he can track them back to Yavin 4.
Indeed, and then we get more.
But before we get to the second Star Wars reference, we visit the planet Nepenthe, and our first view is of a space bunny with a horn stuck to its head, just like the doggy.
Yeah,
That's
very
like the alien
weird.
doggy from the original series that Sulu picks up.
It's some kind of mythical creature as well. Already exists. I thought it was a chupacabra,
You're
but I
getting
don't
the
think it is in
Chupacabra
hindsight.
mixed up with the jackalope.
Rabbit. It's a rabbit
Yeah,
with
that's a
antlers.
jackalope,
Yeah,
The
jackalope.
Chupacabra
You're
is
right.
the goat-eating monster monkey in Mexico. But Nepenthe looks like a nice planet. It's very verdant. It's different to the rest of the planets we've seen so far, and Soji and Picard sort of pop into existence.
Can we please use the correct term for the bunny with a horn?
Oh, the bunnicorn.
Thank you.
Sorry. Well, Riker hasn't told us it's a
Bunnicorn.
bunnicorn yet. But
Okay, sorry to get out of chronology.
Yeah, well, it just made me happy that because it reminded me so much of that funny little alien dog from TOS,
Yeah, no.
which is just a terrier in like a wig.
I love that episode of TOS.
Such a funny episode. Just Sulu just holding it, going, "This is an alien." And everyone's going, "No, not really." Picard and Soji are being held up by a wee bairn with a bow and arrow, who Picard sort of names as Kestra and asks after her parents. They then go for a little walk to Kestra's parents on what will become the woodland path of life-altering revelations.
Everything on this planet was a little life-altering revelation-y.
Soji
Picard just drops out of nowhere, basically. Hey, chick, remember that kid Data we used to hang around with? And then she's like, "Oh yeah, the robot." And he's like, "Yeah, that's her dad." And then she's like, "Holy shit, I'm a robot!" And it was
And then
very
It did
unusual.
feel like a doddering old man who just said something incredibly
and
inappropriate.
then
Yeah.
a couple of sentences later,
Yeah,
he's
it
like,
was
"By
like-
the way, also your sister's dead." She's like, "What?"
Yeah. Well, we said this, so she's like, everything's fake.
P.S.
and
she's
and he's
dead.
like, no, your sister is real. It's like, yes, but all your memories of her were fake.
No, she was a real person, but yes, everything else is fake, including you.
And also, she's dead, so
Yeah.
there's no more new
And
memories.
this whole-
Every
Yeah.
memory you have of her
What was
is
it you said?
fake.
All the memories you have of her, they're not real. But she was
But you
real.
never-
but
you
she's
never
dead.
knew her.
And the whole time, Kestra, this little girl just stood there, being like, "Oh God."
She's like, I've got a bow and arrow, and I'm pretending to be an elf.
She's like, "I'm from a Wes Anderson
Yeah.
film." This
I was
is a
about to say,
bit too
did
much
you
for me."
did you not feel that like Kestra is infinitely more likable than Soj after 20 seconds?
Yeah, I
There's
guess
something
she's,
about
she's more precocious, isn't she? And she's got. Well, it's also she can kill you with a bow and arrow, which makes someone even.
Yeah,
more
Soji is a terrible character.
But she's also a pacifist.
Yeah, I think Soji gets better in this one.
We actually think the exact
That's the
opposite.
show. Yeah, we hate her. We hate the actress and we hate the character. Interestingly, though, we were talking about Kestra, weren't we? So Kestra's named after...
Yeah, I got confused. I thought
Uh,
Kestra was named after
Kes,
Deanna Troy's mum,
the-
but it's actually the sister.
Oh, yeah, that's Loaxana Troy. Yeah. So it's Loaxana Troy's other daughter, which died. And there's an episode about it in TNG about... I don't remember how it happens, but they go in like a time-travelling doodad or like a step into some memories kind of doodad, and Deanna Troy meets her sister briefly. Very depressing.
So it's not.
moment.
So she's not named after the Ken Loach film about the Kestra in the North.
Sadly not. But I bet Riker is a big fan of Ken Loach as like a really obscure 21st century man.
I bet Tom Paris has some Ken Loach VHSs for his fucking stupid little wanky telly set that he's definitely still got. We leave the woodland path of life-altering revelations and emerge into the glade of Tony Stark's house from Endgame. But instead of a Pepper Potts outside, there's Marina Sirtis, who now sees Picard and brings the amount of people happy to see him up to 2.
A whole 2. But again, her face has a
she's-
problem showing expression, so you're not really sure what she's feeling.
Yeah, 10 years of Botox really fucked her up. She's still wearing a Commander Blue as well, I noticed. She's like she's still in uniform just in case you forgot who she was.
But I did think it was
Like,
good
maybe it'll jog
that
your
she
memory.
seems to have put more of the accent back into it than she did in the films.
By the,
Some more accent, but not all of
by,
it.
by the end of some of those films, she was clearly just like, look, if you're making me come back for this, I'm doing my voice. And they're like, all right, yeah. I was kind of hoping that she'd be all like Peggy Mitchell, but no, she's just normal. She's back to just generic. They were disappointed, I got to be honest.
I thought she was sort of like
I
a
was
halfway
quite
house
glad,
between the two.
yeah.
I thought like it felt like she'd been around Riker specifically, and obviously other humans long enough that she lost a bit of it, but it was back there. Like it was more where I thought it should be, as opposed to the films where they just couldn't fire her.
Oh, blimey! The old phasers and that.
Yeah.
I
So
like
10
that
out of
voice.
10 for her actually even attempting to do the accent.
Hello, Governor. That's a bit of the old psychiatry.
Troy empaths Picard a bit and seems to just read his mind fully. Picard introduces her. She appears to have ranked out as commander, which, you know, is pretty good.
It's respectable. I thought that.
Soji's just rude now. She's having a bad time. We taken inside the cottage, and back once again, it's Commander Will Riker, main man Jay Frakes with the beard that's silver. He's just Jonathan Frakes is in shot again. It's great.
I'm so happy. I was saying this to Ruben. I said it to Josh earlier. Like, I'm so happy they've let him age. He looks so good.
He's turned into a
Like-
silverback gorilla.
Yeah, but he looks perfect. He looks provincial, but in like the noblest way. It makes me so happy just to look at him.
Think back to how unnatural he looked when he went through the various stages of having a beard and then shaving off his beard and then having a beard again.
The thing is, like, he wasn't young when he was playing Riker, and like, I think the thing is they tried to keep him young looking
Yeah, they're trying to
for
make him
too
look
long,
younger, weren't they?
but
Yeah.
he looks so
Definitely.
great with like embracing sort of like the largeness and, like you said, the beard. Like, he's a dad. He's a great dad.
He looks like he's recently been whittling a small wooden
Looks like he
toy
built
or
this
something.
house himself. He's
Yeah.
happy to see Picard, so we'll knock that tally up to 3 people in the galaxy that actually seem to want to hang out with him.
You forgot about number one, the dog.
Not a
He's happy to
person.
see Picard.
Unless it's a Romulan spy or a Borg.
That would be a
The
good
Tal
twist.
Shiar agents that he lives
He's
with,
a
put him in
founder.
there.
He's a founder posing as a dog.
I think we've done this already, actually. Picard clues Riker into the fact there's trouble. Riker tells his house to raise shields. Where
Yeah,
where
I
are
thought that was
they?
really cool. He had like a home defense system, right?
Alexa really kicking up a few notches in the future. Yeah, he has shields because they've had trouble with the Kazidit, who are a sort of slightly non-canon until now, like cat people race.
I was about to say, so that was weird because I meant to mention this to Ruben. I was mentioning them because I was mentioning that episode where they try
Oh,
and
is it those
stop
same
them from
people you're
getting the
talking
nuke
about, the cat
in
people? Yeah.
the animated series.
Yeah.
And I was explaining to Ruben that the animated series is non-canon, and then lo and behold, they're in the same episode. But just before mentioning it, that was weird as hell.
Are they like moon sugar using?
They're not Khajiits. I wish they were. I mean, they're like
That's what I'm
they're like
imagining.
slavers, aren't they? If I recall correctly.
And Riker and Troy chose to live on this planet.
It's
with
got
their
remember, it's
daughter.
got soil that regenerates, Ruben. That's very
Maybe
important.
getting them
That's
mixed
true,
up
it
with
has
the
magic
Zenkethi-
soil.
No, there's Zenkethi lizards.
The Khazinti are the cat people.
Kazunti the cat.
Yeah,
and Zenkethi lizards.
We haven't had a Gorneg
Still no
reference this
Gorneg
episode,
reference.
as far as
No,
I
it
know.
doesn't-
Yeah,
Riker-
weird.
Riker's
But then again, I guess we should be happy we got the Khazinti right. I think that's your fucking obscure Star Trek race for the day. Fuck off.
Back in the kitchen of Riker Park's, the estate that he lives on, they mention about to his daughter about has he gutted the bunny corn properly and taken out the poison glands and the barbed stinger off and whatnot. I was quite sure that they make a point many times of giving up eating meat, and they're like space vegans. They replicate everything to avoid harming animals because they deem it to be unnecessary.
There's a bit where Riker goes, "We no longer enslave animals for food purposes."
But there he is teaching his 12-year-old daughter to hunt and
Well, as
flay
you get
a
older, you
rabbit.
get more right wings. Maybe he's just become like a full quither homesteader. It's like, look,
The replicated steaks aren't
Yeah,
doing it
you can't
anymore.
get
He's like, you're not a
replicated
really
out there.
fancy.
so where do you get the tomato? No, he
No,
goes to tomatoes.
'cause you
Where do
get-
you get the cheese.
You get replicators on relief missions for like in
True.
refugee camps, so they can be set up anywhere. I think.
Yeah, I feel like if you were going to give anyone something which can help them, then a replicator would replicate anything, right? So it solves all your problems.
I mean,
more or
I
less.
think this is, do you remember when Star Wars... Oh, no, it's Game of Thrones, isn't it? Sorry, shit. Thrones, they go, I guess someone forgot about the crypts, and it was about the fact that they stored all the vulnerable people.
Fighting
Oh,
men
yeah.
next to the-
Yeah, and it's like, I guess Tyrion just forgot about the crypts or whatever. I think it's probably that. I guess they probably just forgot about the whole vegan thing. Because, yeah, looking at this, it says, it seems Riker especially was always spouting veganism, so it's particularly unfortunate.
I mean, then again, they've got horns and venom sacs. It feels fairly equal.
But that's no fault of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so it's
That's too
Cows have
killed.
got
It's
horns,
dead.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, it is been killed. And also, but she said she was a pacifist, but I guess that doesn't come out to...
Doesn't count
Oh
to
yeah,
animals.
that's true. It doesn't
not
cover
playing
animals. I feel like we yet again are pulling on the plug, which is going to unleash the infinite
need to-
abyss.
I
of
think if
plot
something
holes
is
in
mentioned
Star
in
Trek.
the episode of Star Trek Picard and then is possibly under scrutiny, we're allowed to cover it.
I think this one's an excuse to get.
Yeah, definitely the pacifism
I mean,
thing.
like,
That is
I
really
still
dumb.
support our not going into, 50 years of Star Trek, 70 probably years soon.
She doesn't like war, but she loves to hunt and kill bunny
I just
rabbits.
needed a reason for Jonathan Frakes to say the phrase "bunny corn."
Fucking sociopath.
To be fair, I did enjoy. That's the thing. The problem is, like Ruben, he could have violated every tenet of Star Trek canon, and because his little face was smiling at me, I'd have still been pretty happy about it.
Kestra is giving Soji a grilling about what it's like to being an android and if she's got the same personality traits as Data.
the unnecessary shower
It's not
scene.
long. I was really worried it was going to be for ages. It's just a quick blast.
We were one step away from hearing sultry like Careless Whisper. Yeah. Well,
We have learned. Don't worry, lads. Your Soji 7 fanfics can include plenty of both saliva and mucus because Soji has both in abundance.
The Data did not,
The
so
Data
get
did not.
your minds out of the sack for that one.
And for people that didn't see TNG, Kestra gives us a brief history of Data.
That must have been so strange when Tasha Yar was kissing Data for him to not have to not have saliva.
Maybe he's got maybe he can generate a sort of lubricating oil when he needs to.
That would be horrible to kiss.
yeah. So I mean, his mouth is just bone dry at all times.
Presumably.
It's like the worst
because they
dry
sort of
mouth
tap his
ever.
head to flip his skull open and stuff. At least he's warm. Tasha gets what Tasha wants.
She sure did.
Including a completely different job and probably a less successful career.
But he was fully functional.
Fully.
Yeah,
Functional.
fully
Yeah, she doesn't ask
functional.
that. She goes, Soji, if you
That
got
would
a
be so
badge,
weird for a
'cause I,
14-year-old girl
Because I
to
had Data with a massive schlong.
Well, that's the thing. It did feel like Jonathan Frakes spent a lot of time talking about Data over the years.
Oh, Riker definitely would have been like, and he fucked like a steam train.
I took him down to Riza and he shagged me rotten.
You're drunk. He's like, I'm always drunk.
I'm drunk on bunnycorn venom.
Drunk on bunnycorn venom. It's a high you just keep chasing. Troy and Picard are having a catch up, and we learn that Thad is a son who died and was very good at making up languages. It seems kind of sad because it seems that they haven't hung out in ages.
I thought this was a lovely detail. I thought this was wonderful. The language system, like Adani, the fact he was raised on a spaceship, the way they are clearly grieving parents still. I mean, completely unrelated to the plot of the TV show. Probably fan service, but I thought it was done really well. I really liked it. I was actually sad their son was dead, and that's impressive because I don't give a shit about half the
more
characters.
backstory was added to these characters in that 5 minutes than some of the other characers have had in
Exactly.
7
I care more about
episodes.
Fad, a kid who was never shown on screen, than I care about Zarek or Narek or whatever he's called, the main
I
villain.
thought
Yeah.
bearable.
Oh, I know. I rated him because he basically sounds like me if he was even more autistic.
Because I think the problem with the first three, when we were complaining about the pace a lot more, it wasn't that it was taking the time to introduce characters. It's almost like repeating itself and pulling stuff out unnecessarily.
Yes.
And it is nice to have an episode where they sort of spend some time with the characters a little bit more, and it's not just...
Yeah, and unnecessary action scenes. Like, the one action scene in this felt so hollow because we'd been watching actually interesting, or moderately interesting, character development.
Picard mentions that he seems to have finally realised that wherever he goes, people get got, and he's planning on leaving pretty soon. And that's where we get the shot of the archery trophy. That's where you saw that their married name is Troy Riker, and that Thad's full name is Thaddeus. I don't know if that's a reference to something. I forgot to look it up.
Shadius.
Yeah,
Troy
I said it's
Riker.
probably like Riker's dad or something, but I have no proof of that.
Back to the ship, and Rios has finally clocked well, not finally. Rios has just noticed that Narek is following them, and he finally mentions the ship's name. He finally calls it the Serena,
La
and it comes out, and
Serena.
it's very quick as well. It's so easily missable, which makes you wonder: have I missed it in earlier episodes?
La Serena.
Has he been mentioning it loads? I just wasn't paying attention. So,
Weird, right?
Yeah. So Narek is flying at something that's referred to as a snake head. And it's got a lot of shoot for its size. And we get a shot of Narek in there. And he's got his space fidget spinner and steering the ship with one hand on a joystick, which just seems odd. And he's staying at or beyond the limit of the scanners.
But really close in terms of how the camera's shot.
Yeah, it seems about 5 meters away.
Yeah, how can they not just see him in the rearview mirror?
Maybe it's meant to be like a blind spot. Or maybe like that's at warp and your scanners go funny at warp.
I mean, the way it was shot, though, is unforgivable because, it raised a lot more questions than it answered.
You'd think that it wouldn't, even if it didn't even have a view screen, that the whole thing's just fucking covered in cameras and stuff, right? So they can see. Like, otherwise, how would you park it and stuff? It would be a bloody
it's an
nightmare.
omnidirectional job.
Rios,
Yeah, well, you can't even parallel park a
Rios
spaceship
goes
if
and
you can't
looks
see
to
the
check himself
space,
out
right?
in the rear view mirror and then just sees Narek staring back at him.
He just winks.
Is that an emergency stalking?
Jackie, he's got one of those mirrors that's really small and goes in the corner of your actual mirror, so you can easier to parallel park.
Objects in mirror are more sinister than they appear.
Yeah.
I love it.
We get our second Star Wars reference with Agnes, and she says, we want to get rid of him, and I'd much prefer if we. He said, much I'd like to be the fun crew member that wants to fly into a comet, and it turns out to be a big space beast.
Big worm or something,
Can't we just go home again?
It was a very on the nose.
It was
Star
so
Trek
on the
reference,
nose, but I mean, it was fine. I mean, it seemed like the kind of thing she would say, I guess.
Maybe maybe Star Wars exists in their universe and is a really popular piece of 20th century film.
Confusing. It's like in the JJ films where they're listening to the Beastie Boys.
The Beastie Boys, who somehow survived, who we worked out would have been made during the Gene Wars, right?
Well, in the Beastie Boys song Intergalactic, they mention Mr. Spock.
That
more
was
confusing.
They do, like a pinch from the neck of Mr. Spock.
Hearing that going, Spock, what the fuck?
Spock.
I was a rapper in my previous.
I brought the noise and then the funk.
Section 31 teleported me back to 1980 in the midst of the Gene Wars.
There needs to be a scene where he's like, "Look out, it's sabotage," and looks right into the camera, directly into the camera.
Yeah, Rios pulls some flyboy tricks, hoping that Narek will overshoot and miss them. And this is where Agnes really loses her ability to be a decent spy and just starts cracking completely.
Oh, she has a real spaz out, doesn't she?
She just freaks out. It's like, we need to go home. And is told, no, no, you've been paid to go and get him. And then she does one of her big swears, and I've decided that the reason that the swearing sticks out so much is when you think about it, it should be happening a lot more. Like when crewmen are running down corridors and the main characters are going past during a time of crisis, it should just be shit, fuck. Oh, it's the Borg. Like just constant.
Oh fucking hey!
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Oh,
Has anyone sworn in this so far?
Yeah, people have. Well, I think one of our complaints.
Is it just because it's Jurati that it really stands
No,
out?
I think it's been one of our complaints a lot in this that they swear way more. Well, obviously, way more than they ever used to. They never used to at all because of the age rating, I believe. So,
yeah.
I mean,
Raffi must have
Picard
said
saying
shit a
"damn"
couple of
used to
times.
be a big thing.
Yeah, because Cisco
Yeah,
would
that's
have
true.
been constantly swearing.
Oh, he'd drop in F-bombs
As soon
everywhere.
as Jake left the room,
Yeah.
he would have been calling everyone a wanker.
Yeah, little fucking
Fuck
asshole.
you, fucking idiot! Get the fuck over! I'm gonna fuck you so.
Oh man, I want another Deep Space Nine. Where's Deep Space 10? Bring it on.
Dax, charge up the phases. We're gonna fuck us up some Jem'Hadar.
Mr. fucking Worf, kick us into next fucking
We're
gear.
call the Defiant the motherfucking Defiant.
How many swears are we allowed on YouTube before we get
Apparently, you're not
cancelled?
allowed to swear in the first few minutes anymore. It auto detects them and censors you. Raffi takes Agnes off to give her some cake, which I very much took to mean she was going to go and drug her.
Yeah, I was confused, but the thing is, so in the novel, Agnes Jurati's love of cake is well documented, but I can't remember if this has been in the series so far.
I suppose
Is she a
Definitely not.
big
I
foodie?
don't think so.
no, I mean it wouldn't have been much opportunity for her to.
That sounds like some deleted
bring that
scenes
up
to me
again,
right
I
there.
suppose.
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, no, I thought it was. It just seemed very human. It's like, you're having a freak out right now, my dear. Time to take you down for some coffee.
Do you have any angel light? No.
Red.
Yeah, so Auntie Raffi goes all Mama Bear and takes her off. And we're back to Riker, who's making pizza, which
Oh.
made me wonder what Nepenthe tomatoes taste like. And also, I haven't seen many pizzas that have whole tomato slices on the top, which is what he's doing.
You'd have like little
Yeah,
cherry
plum
tomatoes, maybe, but not a
maybe.
whole.
Put in whole
Yeah, very
like
odd.
beef tomato slices. Now, wouldn't that make the dough soggy?
To be fair, he does look like the man who would serve a whole slice of beef tomato on a pizza.
The pizza's just wider than the slice.
Yeah, it's like a loaf of bread with some cheese and then just a steak on the top with half a tomato just on top of that.
I like
Absolute
chef. I like,
unit.
yeah, I like outdoor chef Riker.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone else picked it up, but you know how Picard is being really cagey. It seemed like Riker was about to give him a bollocking, but was like just on the cusp.
He almost did in like that bit where he was playing the guessing game, because he was just like, it's like, you don't get to decide the rules anymore because we're not in Starfleet.
And this is where we learned that Nepenthe has regenerative soil.
Yes, very important.
Whatever that means.
So that they can grow their magic beans.
Because they couldn't do that in
Go
normal
to the
soil.
beanstalk.
No. Soji's come out and has read one of Thaddeus's made-up language dictionaries in 2 minutes. So he's just gone full robot, and he's like, fair enough, I'm a robot, cool, whatever. And then she does the twitching her head thing where she's like, I don't know, scanning the pizza.
That really
We've
frustrated
never done
me.
this annoying.
Before, has she?
No, that's what we said. She's
No,
never done that before. And
neither
all,
did
all it
Dash.
would have taken is her doing that 1 or 2 times before to make this scene not egregious.
Yeah. It was also like,
Yeah.
what? She wasn't programmed with what pizza is. And she's like, what is this strange circular food?
Yeah, surely that's the fake
Riker's
memories.
like, I know that head twitch
Yeah.
anywhere. Well, like, the head twitch had never come up in the entire series until right now.
Will Riker says hello to her, and you know he's matured because he doesn't immediately fuck her.
Sorry, just to go back to that, that was what would have been really good, is if that they had included subtle dataisms in there. Like, if she is supposedly from the same single fractal positronic neuron,
Yeah.
then that would have been good to include. For some, I guess they were just like, oh shit, we need something to remind him of data quickly. Head twitch.
The Twitch.
And that's a really good point, actually. And then they could have really used that to great effect by having another character who's already in the series that we love and, have been watching so far, right at the end, the cliffhanger moment of another episode, doing the little head twitch, and you're like, oh fuck, he's an android. Something like that would be a really good, like, oh shit moment for the, kind of like...
Yeah, subtle
They do a lot of
nods.
stuff like that in Westworld, don't they, where they do subtle robotisms, and you're like, oh my god, that person's a robot.
Troy and Soji are in the garden. Gardening. But like, Soji is introduced to the concept of tomatoes, and then
Many things this woman
Yeah.
hasn't seen before.
This is
Although
where
she's
they-
had replicated tomatoes.
Yeah. So Troy introduces tomatoes, but she calls them tomatoes like an American, and I didn't. These are actual accents.
You know what I don't like? She eats a tomato that's been grown, and she thinks it's the best fucking tomato she's ever eaten. But that doesn't make sense, because the tomato that's a replicated tomato would be a perfect replication of the best tomato anyone has ever eaten. It would be like, we're going to get this chef tomato, this best, really well, good, super fancy tomato, and we're going to put this in the replicator blueprint or whatever, and then every tomato from now on is going to be this tomato. But she eats a shit, it's literally an imperfect tomato. But that's the best tomato she's ever eaten.
Everyone says that about food and Star Trek.
Furious.
Because they always
Furious.
eat real food, and they're like, this is so much better. Like, replicators they're not perfect. They create weird, artificial tasting food because it's all just reassembled proteins and matter and stuff. Like the Marquis are always saying it. Ben Sisko cooks real food deliberately because it tastes nicer.
He does, it's
Like,
true.
I mean,
Like
they
it
always
cooks
say that
fat.
about Simferhol as well, don't
Yeah,
they? To
like
be
it's
fair.
a bit rubbish actually. That's why they get the real stuff in.
Maybe it's that it's too perfect coming out of the replicator, and little imperfections are kind of what gives it its
and,
character.
this tomato has been grown in super soil as well, so God knows what that must taste like. Maybe
Regenerative super soil.
Maybe Maddox put like an Italian subroutine in her, and so she can
Maybe.
really appreciate the fine tomato in a way that we heathen Protestants just can't. So I don't think tomatoes are
Yeah.
that great. Like if I bit into a tomato, I'd be like, ugh, it's a bit watery.
Well, indeed, that's
Well,
the
no,
other
I
thing
like
I thought is
tomatoes.
who just eats a tomato.
Man, I would happily just eat a tomato. You guys have been eating all the wrong tomatoes.
Bite full on into a tomato.
I've seen people bite
Yeah.
into onions, Aaron. By comparison, a tomato is a dessert.
I did that when I was a little kid, and my mum thought I was a weirdo. So I
Or the
stopped doing
onion.
You are, yeah, because you were being a
it. Yeah,
weirdo.
I tried
That-
to chew on
Yeah,
an
I
onion.
mean,
It was
I'm
really
gonna have to
gross.
side with Mama Fuchs here. You were being a weirdo.
Tony Abbott, the Prime Minister of Australia, Tony Abbott did it once. It looked like a lizard. It was horrible.
You got international flack for it.
Yeah.
You're good lucky you didn't get international flack for it.
Back in the garden, we get some more backstory on Thaddeus. And this is where I thought he sounded unbearable. It's where Troy says, oh, he made up 11 languages, including one for butterflies.
Yeah, who the fuck is he,
It's like,
Tolkien
oh,
or something?
so
It was a bit of a...
Clearly, I'm the only one who found that very endearing.
That's
That says a lot.
He's just like, it's just like, no, please stop it. He's like, no, I wanted a new language you've all got to learn. No, go and make a pizza. Go and kill something like your sister. But
I can just imagine Riker being like, "You want this American football? Learn to lift these big logs." And he's like, "No, father, I must go to the meadow and craft thy new language."
Must
Language
work
of the
on the
daisy
butterfly
people.
language.
yeah, it's like that meme of like, you know, that meme of like the guy, like the kid, like being plugged into like a VR hentai game, and his dad's like, "Are you winning, son?" It's like that.
Yeah.
Like, his boy creating conjugative verbs. Yes, we find out that Thaddeus died of some sort of space neurosclerosis that is a silicon-based disease that could have been cured by being passed through a positronic matrix, which I thought was Data's brains. You'd have to sort of shove him through a android's face.
Well, so I really like this because the synth ban is something that I feel hasn't been investigated enough, and is something that's really covered in the novel. And I think it's ridiculous that it hasn't been like mentioned in the show. But I like that there has been a casualty of it, because discontinuing an entire branch of investigative science would have drawbacks.
Yeah, like knock-on effects and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so this was a really nice detail. 10 out of 10.
I guess you could compare it to something like if they were to completely ban like stem cell research or
exactly.
something.
It would be
like obviously that's quite like a
huge.
forefront of medical science, isn't it? And then obviously if there was something in there, I couldn't do that. Could have saved that guy, but the law says he can't.
Soji is being vulnerable about her entire life being a lie, and Picard decides this is the perfect moment to vaguely mock her.
Fucking idiot. What is that?
Yeah, he's had some weird dialogue
Yeah,
this
I don't know if he was
episode,
trying to
isn't
be
he?
like, I don't know what he was doing. He was being a cock.
I think he was trying to be like have a casual, like jolly approach, like, "Oh, don't worry about it, you're just a robot," and it was a bit.
He sort of like squares up to
fucking
her
odd.
as well. Like Soji's sort
Yeah,
of
he
stands up to
tries
her,
to challenge her.
and she's like, he's like, "What are you doing?" So she just pushes him out the way and nearly kills him.
Yeah, gives him the angsty
Yeah.
teenage
And-
shove. Get out of
and
my way,
Troy,
Dad.
Quite rightfully gives him the business of being an old prick. It's like, what are you doing? Like she's been completely manipulated and functionally tortured for weeks at a
But
time.
Picard doesn't know that because
Yeah.
he didn't take the
This
time
woman
to
thought
talk
she
to
was
her.
Yeah, like he's just being an old bastard
Yeah.
for no reason.
Literally, like 12 hours ago, this woman thought she was a human and she was getting knobbed by her little evil Tal Shiar boyfriend.
It's like your
And
express.
now she's a fucking
I
robot.
found out in like the space of 2 hours that her mum's not real. She's a robot. Narek's been manipulating her. Her sister's dead. And you dropped half of that on her in a
Yeah.
fucking woodland glade.
She has gone through a lot.
Exactly. Your express mission was to find her, and the only thing you've done with that so far is ignore her and then be a knob to her.
Yeah.
And I don't understand why.
Troy's right to go in with phaser set to kill. He was being an asshole.
Yeah.
The whole time she's giving him the business, Riker's just stood behind him, looking really proud. Like, yeah,
Looking very amused.
kill him, wife.
He's-
But then his oven decides they haven't chosen a pope yet, and he scampers off to go and rescue it. And, Troy takes a moment to remind Picard that he needs to be more like TV Picard, not movie Picard.
That was incredible. I mean, I agree, obviously, but it felt really strange for her to be saying, "Oh, that's the thing." We me and Ruben talked about this. Would you describe TV or movie Picard as compassionate? We thought compassionate was the wrong word.
He didn't like kids. But
That's what I mean.
was-
He didn't. He was
all-
like compassionate on like a structural leader level, which I wouldn't describe as compassion.
Yeah.
He was like ethical. He was.
I wouldn't say he showed compassion to very many people at all. The only time it really stuck out in my mind was when he's in the shuttle with Wesley Crusher and he ends up having to have heart surgery. In that scene, obviously, he's like lets his guard down and he's very casual and he like talks about Wesley's dad and stuff. But like, other than that, there aren't many moments where he shows like loving
I suppose you could argue
compassion
that
to
the whole
anyone.
Romulan rescue mission was an act of compassion. Given
Definitely.
how many times Romulans
That's
have
true.
tried to kill
But
Picard.
But that's what I mean. I think on a leader level, like on a command level, he was very compassionate. He valued life massively, and sort of like again like the blood of my enemy sort of thing.
He's honourable,
She's-
isn't he?
What
But
Deanna
not-
Troy's
not
talking about
really.
is individual compassion in
Yeah.
relation towards a human being, which is something he admitted he really struggles with.
That was an odd word to
I
use.
guess she couldn't go on. Well, not compassionate, but I know what you mean.
She could have
it
chose the word
didn't-
better.
It didn't stick out to me in the moment, but now
Fair
you
enough.
say
We
it.
would just
Oh yeah, it did for
But yeah,
us.
that's entirely reasonable. And yeah, like you said, like I mean, she was, it was a spur of the moment conversation, and she did nail 2 out of 3. She, like you said, given the situation, she was basically telling Picard not to be a shitlord, which was all he.
He was definitely being a shitlord.
We're back to the cube. Meanwhile, on the Borg cube, Elnor and Hugh are just striding around Borg corridors, openly fomenting rebellion and discussing about how they're going to go to the Queen Cell to do a big rebellion. And
Yeah.
Lieutenant Rat just bursts out of a room full of dry ice and says that this is all I needed, you fools. for you to openly say you want to do rebellion, now I can kill you.
It makes you wonder, is
You
she
have
filing
fallen
that with the
into my
Federation?
trap.
Like, it's like, well, these guys said they wanted to openly do a rebellion, so...
It would definitely be in a Romulan treaty. Like, but if they say they want to do rebellion, we can kill them, right? And the Federation are like,
You have activated my
Right.
trap card, and now I'm
we went to the
authorized to
treaty
kill
that we
you.
can kill them for fomenting insurrection. And the Federation
Some
are like,
some poor Federation bureaucrat's just like, yeah, sure, fine.
Insurrection was a terrible movie, so
I did think that Insurrection name drop, presumably indirectly.
you've fomented insurrection. Have you noticed my boobs have started firming up? So bad. Why was that film allowed?
Insurrection. Was that one of the Frakes ones?
I don't know. It's where he shaves the beard off, and that's where you get the manual steering column.
Oh,
And
beautiful.
I think and there's a bit where like this woman says to Picard, "I haven't been with a bald man in so long." Even though it's like that's not how male pattern baldness works.
We should watch Insurrection. We should watch all of those films again.
The commentary on Insurrection
We
is really
shouldn't.
good because Marina Sirtis is doing it and she's a bit pissed. So she spends
What,
a lot of
pissed
it
off or
just
actually drunk?
Like
Oh, wow.
I think they've been on the wine, so like
Beautiful.
everyone in it is just sort of
Amazing.
cackling.
Is that the one where they go down to the planet and there's the woman who lives
It's
forever
like
or
it's
something,
got
and
like
they're
a-
in a
yeah, it's got
simulation?
like a de-aging
Yeah.
radiation, and they've got to
I mean, all you
need
to
holodeck and stuff.
All you need to do is
Ah,
say
that
the
film
one
was
where they go down
fucking
to the planet,
dreadful.
because that's all they do in that film. So yes, you are
Yeah, the whole
correct.
film.
Then Marina Sirtis starts pointing out plot holes in it during the commentary, which is like,
Incredible.
why are they
Really? That's
hiding
amazing.
So close to it? Why is Data
Indeed,
down
yeah,
there?
they're on like the mesa next door to it. It makes no sense.
As Lieutenant Rat is threatening to kill Hugh and Elnor, Elnor does his line
He does the
and
line.
then starts parkouring and ninjaing around the cube like a weeaboo.
He says some
He does it in.
Elvish
Yeah, I was
as
gonna
well.
say he says it in Elvish, unfortunately, so we can't hear it in the Australian accent.
Pulls his weeaboo back.
Good day,
Good day,
mates.
I'm a fucking drongo.
I wanna fucking get
I'm
through,
gonna
mates.
tell your fucking Shiar, get over here.
Like a weeaboo Batman, he bounces around the parkour and spotlights room.
Yeah, what? It's like Obi-Wan Kenobi on the Death Star, and
Yeah.
he was on speed. It's fucking fascinating.
Yeah, it's like when Yoda finally uses his
Yeah.
ninja powers in the Clone Wars film.
Absolutely cuts through these dudes. Pace it like Elnor is really good at killing people.
So
And
what
it's
do you
an
think?
interesting double like other side to like he's a bumbling like idiot. Is that he's
Yeah,
really,
he's a complete
like-
idiot, or he's a
he's like
bloodthirsty
Lenny from
ninja.
Mice and Men.
What did you think of "There's only one way that Quat Vash and fucking other word fight one another"?
Vash and
Koat
Koat,
Millat.
yeah. I was thinking like, is she really challenging him to a fist fight? And I was like, oh, she means shoot them in the back. Like,
Oh, see, we thought the other way around. We thought that she was gonna pull out a sword, and then he dropped his sword. We were like, oh no, it's a fist fight.
yeah, I guess because like
Yeah,
I
pugilism.
guess she sort of went, like, I'm adhering to, I'm playing into his sense of honor. I'm going to fist fight him. She gets a shit kicked out of him, and then she throws a knife into Hugh, who's just sort of cowering behind a wall. Hugh starts all gurgly, and as Elnor goes to help him, she pulls a gun. And I was like, yeah, that would make sense, I guess. You don't fight the the ninjas.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, it did seem weird that she was saying this is how we fight our physically indomitable foe.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this seems like a bold move at
Give it
best,
away.
because he fucking like capoeira kicks her in the face really hard.
Brazil! And he just
She really doesn't seem like the character as well who would choose to fight somebody honorably with her fists for some kind of weird tradition
Yeah, surely
thing.
absolute candor
Like,
is
she
just
seems like the
slaughter
character who
someone.
would, yeah, she would just shoot you and ask questions later on, and that's kind of what I liked about her. She was pretty fucking
That
evil.
was her plan,
and
was to shoot him in the back. Like, 'cause
What, so her plan was
Well,
to get. So her plan was to get
put-
punched in
put
the
her
face,
gun
kicked
away.
in the
I
face.
imagine
to
the
fight
kick in
him,
the
stab
face
Hugh,
probably wasn't
and
part
then-
of it. I imagine she went, oh fuck. But I think the firing her hidden wrist blade into Hugh from across the room and then shooting him in the back probably was. But,
Okay.
So Elnor then throws a knife at her and she teleports away. Or did someone
I think
else do
someone
it?
else did it, presumably,
That is
because
a
there's no way she could have reacted quick enough.
Unless she had like a hidden button in her wrist or something.
yeah, there was those emergency teleporters in the
Yeah.
pimp
But,
episode.
like, if it was a transporter guy, give him a promotion because he's detected incoming knife and have beamed her out so quickly.
Yeah.
Ah, fuck.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he should definitely get a fucking bonus for that.
Yeah, the order of the Hugh. He has a knife in his throat and he's all gurgling away and he thanks Elnor for helping and goes to join the big collective in the sky where he can run around outside all day and gets to hang out with all the other ex-Borg.
He has to hang out with Icheb,
R.I.P.
and his fucking
Human.
half eye.
RSPC,
Yeah.
RSPECT Q.
R.I.P. XP, human.
Yeah. I thought that Hugh's character was quite interesting. in this bit because he's kind of weak.
Very tragic.
Like
I
he's
like it.
he's just like all these people are dying around him, and he's like, I'm gonna do rebellion, and then it just goes wrong immediately, and he gets
Yeah.
Is he as super strong and as super fast as 7 of 9, or do you reckon that's just a 7 of 9 thing?
I think maybe that's a 7 of 9 thing, child thing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
She still has all of her implants, remember?
Yeah,
That's like a
but he
thing,
seems
isn't
to
it?
have a
She's
few of them.
full of implants.
Yeah, but I think his might be generally, sort of like cortical face, etc.
Administrative implants only.
He's got the data entry implant that lets him be the most
Oh, did you see
efficient
you see a
typist
Borg
ever.
spreadsheet, my friend. Oh dear.
Oh, I'm getting a bit funny in the
macros.
loins, Ali.
If the Tau Shiara had sorted his databases, he'd have been absolutely fine.
Back to the Serena. Is it Serena or Selena? I've already forgotten.
It's last Serena,
Serena,
as in
yeah.
the
Serena.
sign.
Yeah, Raffi has been replicating cake at a rapid pace for Agnes. There's like this one scattered around her, so she's like, it's like a third. Raffi is a bit nice in this in a way that I thought was quite threatening and creepy.
Yeah, I liked it. I thought it sort of played into her. She's a mother. She's.
Yeah.
I mean, and again, I thought there was that really good line of like, you can temporarily cobble me together into a good person, which is what she was doing. Like, she was rising to the challenge of being good.
Yeah, right. While Agnes,
And she obviously really wanted to reconnect with her child, didn't she, in the previous
Right, well,
episode?
Agnes is having another break now.
No, this is her chance.
Agnes throws up again.
I like throwing up Red Velvet is really funny.
Yeah.
I like that moment.
I don't blame her. I hate Red Velvet.
Do you?
Yeah,
Oh.
I can't stand it.
Oh man, I think it's delicious.
I don't like it.
I really want some cake now. We were talking about cake so
So
much.
cake.
I'm getting a bit peckish.
But yeah, I also like this new dynamic of Rios and Raffi as a arguing married couple.
Well, I'm arguing married couple / spy versus spy. Like, you got
Yeah.
a bit Mr. and Mrs. Smith in here at this point.
Because Raffi is halfway through sort of trying to talk Agnes down while Rios stomps around upstairs. He's like, what is it now? And he's just
Yeah.
screaming at her from across the room. Like, he's back again.
Leave me alone. I'm trying to do something.
Yeah, the emergency hologram is not interested in coming to assist Agnes at this point in time for reasons that are never brought up.
I'm going to go ahead and say that the emergency medical hologram is actually malfunctioning. This isn't
Something's up
just
with
as
it.
canon.
Yeah, that's a good point. What does it deem to be an emergency? Because it can clearly automatically activate itself. So
Yeah. Back to Nepenthe, and it's dinner time, which appears to be one pizza divided amongst everybody. Portion control in the future is bleak.
It's amazing that
maybe
Riker
it
has
was a
decided that he
perception
is.
thing, and like, yeah, if he was putting on whole pizza slices, maybe it was a really big pizza. And just because the perception of the shot made it look like it was a normal sized pizza.
The pizza oven's like a pizza expander. It just makes it like enormous. There's some discussion around the dinner table about how Picard's going to get out of there if his ship doesn't turn up, and Infinity Lake Spaceport has a spaceport. Funny enough, and there's a captain there called Captain Crandall that might be able to fly him around, but said to be a drunk and a braggart.
Do we think he's going to appear next episode? Because I obviously
Yeah.
chronology lord, don't chastise me, but the fact that he is so knowledgeable at the end led me to believe that his role wasn't over.
Yeah,
And they are quite clear about the fact he is at Infinity Space Lake.
Yeah, that seems like some foreshadowing, doesn't it?
Picard gives Soji a crash course on how to recognise lies and exposes himself only emotionally to get to trust him in another excellent extreme close-up Patrick Stewart speech.
Oh, he's so craggy and beautiful. What a man.
So soft. And Soji says she just wants to go home. And this is where earlier on Troy says, well, we'll treat the dinner table like the ready room of the Enterprise. And at this point they really do, where he just goes options, and Riker's going, well, we could do this, and Troy's going, oh, but no, we could do this. And they do just work through the problem like the end.
I loved it. It reminded me of Star Trek.
And the whole time Kestra is texting at the table. Very rude.
It's good to see that the millennials of both the 21st and 24th century are the same.
It's the same. But no, it turns out she's been WhatsApping Captain Crandall, and he knows where the planet is. Apparently, he just picks the coordinates out of his head.
That was incredible. I mean, the thing is, it was so mad as to be near unbelievable. But I mean, if we meet Captain Crandall and see that he is that knowledgeable, then fine.
Captain Crandall's been DMing like a 12-year-old girl as well. It seems like Kevin Spacey.
But
Gotta
you want
watch
the
out for this
Nepenthe
fella.
police on this one.
Yeah, space nuns.
That's why he knows all like the forbidden non-planets, is because
He knows all the numbered planets.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
big red alarm.
It's because he knows. What to
Yeah,
do.
that is a red flag of Everest.
He's like, I know anywhere that's outside of Federation space, baby.
I think they're going to show up to the planet and it's going to be that Chris, what's his face, from that nonce watch
Oh my
thing
god.
Chris
that
Hampson.
they have in America. Chris Hansen,
Good to see you
yeah.
over here. So you promised a 13-year-old archer that you'd give us some sympathy.
13-year-old elf.
Thought dinner scene was nice. I really dug the mountain range of candles in the middle of the table.
Yeah,
I
we mentioned
noticed so. It was a bit odd. There were
It
so
made
many
it
candles.
impossible to put like a sharing plate down or like pass gravy across the table without setting yourself on fire.
Yeah, imagine trying to eat a pizza on a table that doesn't have a central place to put the pizza.
That's why he gives it out at the start, because you can't put it down anywhere. We're back to the ship now, and Agnes is trying to pass off her repeated vomiting and breakdowns as just too much cake.
It's just par for the course.
Oh, I've got diabetes. Oh, no, it's fine.
Oh, I promise I'm not a
It's not
spy.
just like cake. Rios takes her aside and confides in her that he thinks that the ship is being tracked by Narek, though he doesn't call him Narek. Though Rios thinks it actually might be Raffi. And Agnes just kind of pulls like a face. Like, it's pretty obvious as soon as he says, I think it's Raffi. I swear they play a little doo-doo like noise in the music or something. She sort of pulls like a dumb face.
I mean, yeah, she is the world. I mean, and I like it. I like that she's the world's worst spy, but Christabel, as such, is the world's worst detective.
Because she then just goes, it's not Raffi. And he goes, what is it, you? And she just looks at him. Which
She might as well have nodded.
Yeah. And I take your silence as confirmation, as Commodore O said. She basically just goes, yeah, it's me. And he doesn't catch it.
Yeah, he's like, you've been on this ship the whole time, so it can't possibly be you, because you've never lived a life before you got onto this ship. 30-year-old woman.
Well, I guess he doesn't know that the Starfleets and the Romulans are in it together, so that would be his reason why to discount it, because he couldn't think that Romulans could have got to her on Earth.
I mean, the evidence is pretty overwhelming at this point.
It's always felt like the emergency lie detection hologram should have turned on and be like, Captain, I told you, she's a lying dame.
I like the idea that would be his lie detection hologram.
And surely at this point, Narek also knows that he's rumbled, because the ship is constantly warping out of range and reappearing in funny places. And he's still in there in his little space camper van.
Hand on the cube.
Furiously flipping his cube.
What was that? What is that supposed to be as a character trait shown to him? He can pilot a spaceship and manipulate the cube.
And really good at fidget spinners. I don't know.
It's mad.
I think it's a different cube.
Yeah, it is a different cube. It's not because the other cube was a lockbox. This is almost like a tetrad.
Yeah, it's like a butterfly knife made of cubes that he just spins around his fingers.
Yeah,
it's like Boris out of GoldenEye.
I didn't know what that was trying to tell me. Like, that was completely divorced from visual language.
I think they're trying to make him look edgy and cool, but he just looks like a twat.
Really, like, frantic. And
I thought that. I was like, is he panicking or is he furious?
It kind of feels like he's doing it to sort of keep himself focused.
Is he fraught? Is he like, fuck, I need to get this? Because it is his fault. This is the thing. I was like, this is all his fault. Yeah. So is he trying to redeem himself? Is that why he's so frantically doing this?
I mean, I quite like his new costume with the epaulets and stuff. And
I mean, it's better than the fucking, like, Zara fucking hoodie he was wearing from beforehand.
I mean, his little ship is funny, but it's a cool little set. And also, it's a nice episode for the actor. He just gets to sit there.
Yeah, easy fucking check for him.
And all he's really got to do is fiddle with some cubes and go, at one point. It's nice.
I also didn't have to hear him talk, so I was very happy.
Hope that ship gets blown up at some point and he does like the whole Star Wars X-Wing thing where it all blows up from behind him. That'd be great.
He spins around, that kind of thing.
I reckon the fucking Rizzo the Rat's teleporter guy will be straight on it. He'll be like, I got you, boss. He'll be like, you're the true hero of the operation.
Thanks, Porkins.
Yeah.
While Rios is doing more evasive manoeuvres, Agnes goes to the sort of 3D printer in the corner of the med bay and synthesizes herself up some uranium hydride. And the replicator warns her, this is a neurotoxin, don't inject it. So she injects it. And
guess what she bloody does, yeah.
And then
does
a
dumb,
real good, I'm falling. Bangs into everything.
Yeah, she sweeps the counters as she falls, like the most dramatic fall. You can tell that's something that like she picked up in drama school and has never used until now. Like just stumble into everything.
My moment to shine. Collapses to the ground, spasming and foaming. Finally, the emergency medical hologram turns up. Where's he been?
Yeah,
You notice as well her foam that comes out of her mouth is so white, even though like 5 minutes ago she was being sick and it was bright red.
Because last time he showed up when she had a mild psychiatric episode, and she's having a pretty fucking major psychiatric episode right about now.
And he goes, what is the nature of your... And he goes, oh, bloody hell. And it's kind of like jokey. But why would you program your hologram to be surprised?
That's exactly what I said. It was really funny, but it made no sense. Like, why would your emergency medical hologram not be able to parse an emergency?
Yeah, I feel like as well, if you were going to write a medical hologram, the last thing you would want it to do would be to add to the tension in
The
an
panic.
emergency
Oh
situation.
fuck!
Yeah.
God! Oh
You
god!
don't want
It's
your
like-
surgeon to go, Jesus Christ.
Oh man, this
Yeah,
is
exactly.
bad. This
It's
is
like
really
when your
bad.
hairdresser says, "Oops!" Like you never want. That's the line you never want to hear.
like the
right?
hologram
You
just
don't
starts
wanna hear
throwing
the
up,
doctor
like,
go, "Oh shit!" Like Robert Picardo, doctor, would never say anything like that, right? He'd just be like, "Oh yes, this person's dying." I should
They
go
played
and
it for
fix
laughs
that."
with him that he was always unflappable. Like, or not always, but like whenever he arrived, he was unflappable until he
Yeah.
started becoming more human.
It also
Yeah,
seems
human.
like, for the way that this EMH works, is where it detects an emergency and appears, it seems weird that the computer wouldn't just preload it with what the emergency is.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's clear, like you said, it's clearly monitoring constantly.
always watching,
unless the
yeah.
ship is
Yeah.
monitoring and deploys the appropriate emergency hologram.
But then doesn't tell the hologram what the emergency. The computer goes,
Just
"You've
dumps
hit the
it in
parameters
there."
of
Yeah.
What the emergency is.
It's more bad databasing there.
Yeah,
There's
lack
some
of
relational database
interaction.
problems.
It's
It's
terrible.
a legacy. It's a legacy database. It doesn't.
Yeah, it's
they
being-
don't-
it's
it's
being
not supported
discontinued.
anymore. Yeah.
They've got all their budget building a really slick front end, but their back end was made by some third party.
There's going to be a really awkward episode where someone's like having a heart attack and just the emergency hospitality program deploys, just being like, "How can I help?"
Yeah,
Emergency navigation.
comes with this little clipboard like, "Hey, baby, you want to go for a party?"
Emergency navigational holograms. Just like, I'm very out of my depth. I'm sorry. Is your navigational array in any problems? Help!
Why don't they just have one hologram that can do all
think
these things? Why do
Well,
they
it's
have
the same
multiple
guy.
holograms?
It's just different matrices, isn't it?
Presumably,
Yeah, slightly different personalities, I guess. But wouldn't you just have the same? All of them have the same
Just
skills.
the
in case
emergency
any of them need
hologram.
to do-
In case there's two emergencies at
Yeah,
once.
this again leads back to my point where why don't you just have emergency holograms to do absolutely every living thing, and you just don't need to do anything
Star
anymore.
Trek Online.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess also the question is that there are those things, like the gateway that the cube uses. Why do the Borg still have ships?
Well, indeed. I mean, I think isn't one of the episodes that has that portal technology in it in Voyager all about how that couldn't possibly fall into the hands of any major power because it would destabilize the galaxy.
Yeah, I think.
And
someone just
lo and
described it as
behold,
a-
the Borg have got it and decided to use it as an escape hatch.
Yeah, not very efficient, my Borg friend.
well, I think how vital the wormhole is in Deep Space Nine. The whole fucking season, the whole show revolves around this one teleportation place.
Yeah, exactly, because it is
It's
so
quite a vital,
extraordinary.
huge significance, like tactically, doesn't it?
Sort of like fine, some end of episode bullshit to get Picard away from the nasty wasties, whatever.
Speaking of getting away from nasty wasties, Rios has shaken off Narek yet again. He's like finding it, and then he sort of suspects Raffi to her face that she is leading them to him. Half jokingly suggests firing her out of an airlock, but is interrupted by the EMH reporting that, you need to come to the sickbay. And he goes, "Why is this? Is Agnes still throwing up?" And the EMH is like, "No, it's more that she's in a coma." Again, really burying the lead on his
Emergency
messages.
medical hologram has sass.
It's a sense of dramatic timing. We leave the ship for the final time this episode, and we're back to the cube where Elnor is in full guerrilla mode, sneaking around the Borg cube and activates the Fenris SOS that Seven gave him. So that's the C plot. That's what's going to go on the cube.
Yeah, that's how we get 7 of 9 back into this
Or at
show.
least somebody, I guess. Maybe a big ship will turn up because we've seen lots of little ships, but no big ships.
Oh, I'm pretty sure in the. Oh, have you seen
No,
the
I'm not
end of
watching them
episode?
We're back to the Nepenthe, and Riker and Picard are taking a bro walk. They're talking about his new crew and that the ship is in orbit.
Motley.
To demonstrate that his new crew is motley, he messages Rios, who basically tells him to piss off.
Just does it, says, "Fuck off, old man, I'm busy."
Well, man, I'm busy.
Hey, number one, look at what an asshole my pilot is.
Number one, everyone hates me. And also, I'm a dickhead. Can you please help me?
I feel like a lot of people go down that route though. So they just become a dickhead and everyone hates them, and then they're like, oh.
Yeah, they bro out for a bit, and Riker's... This is where the scene from the trailers where they're sitting on the dock.
Yep.
Yeah.
having little mutual man contact is. This is where it turns out that Riker is still technically on reserve.
Yeah, he's essentially in the territorial army.
The
but
idea of
for space.
silverback Riker straddling a captain's chair again is too
Him-
Yeah,
delightful.
waddling is.
Do you reckon he can still mount a chair like he used to?
My heart says no.
I think he
but
can mount anything
yeah,
he fucking
sure.
wants. He's a lean, mean mountain machine.
I
He
reckon
just
he was
pushes the
just
chair
like-
over now.
I was about to say he'd just snap it in half. I think at this point.
Yeah,
He just walks through it.
Yeah,
he rides on Marina Sirtis' back like he's riding a horse.
She
just pounding his chest like a gorilla.
Yeah,
throwing pizzas left and right.
It's like when the Hulk jumps in like the fight in Endgame. Just like, I hope he comes back for the final battle. That's definitely going to happen
Oh,
because these
yeah.
people are lazy as fuck.
Captain Crandall, they'll be like, "Oh, how are you here?" Captain Crandall brought us, and it'll be an old Star Trek actor or something.
Oh, Captain Crandall is going to be sort of like my prediction for Captain Crandall is it's going to be like do you remember in the Mummy? There's like the old World War One pilot who's like, "Oh, my boys went down."
Oh,
I
yeah.
think
Oh, yeah.
I think he's going to be that guy. I think he's going to be some even crazier old war bastard than Picard.
yeah, he's gonna be like the old guy in Independence Day who drives the crop dust, flies the crop
Yeah.
duster, but ends up flying the fighter jet that destroys the aliens.
Hello.
Hi
Right,
boys,
He's one
I'm
of them.
back.
Yeah. As he crashes
Yeah.
his speed freighter into the Borg cube's assimilation beam or something.
Oh, definitely. That's going to be the climax of episode 10, is we're going to say goodbye to Crandall as he goes to hyperspace into a Borg
If
cube.
it hadn't been for that thing you sent me that said that they deemed the Dominion Wars to be too complex to put in this show, then I would say that Crandall was going to be a Dominion Wars veteran. Obviously, if Avery Brooks wasn't crazy, then I would say it would be him, and that he was just going to punch Picard in the face.
He'd be perfect. A completely bollock crazy Avery Brooks.
I mean, that would if they'd kept that secret and that's what they do, then this show like it immediately comes from like 4 out of 10 to like 10 out of 10.
The final shot is a fully mental Avery Brooks, not in costumes. They couldn't get him in one.
He steers via the piano, like he's
Yeah.
rigged his entire ship for the piano that he's always playing.
Oh, I'd really like it to be the guy that plays spaceship flying fella that they prevents warp speed.
Is that from Cochrane?
Yeah, the Zephram
Oh,
Cochrane
what, aged
actor.
like
I'd love it to be him.
500? Oh,
You
it's
mean
just
the
the actor.
Well, no, the actor's been in so many
yeah.
roles. Yeah, that
No, that would
actor's
be a
in
good-
like
that would actually be a
15
really
different
nice
Star
one.
Trek roles.
Is he still alive?
Yeah,
Kestra is trying to talk Soji into trusting Picard again.
yeah. She's just a blind sheep, isn't she? She just fucking does what anyone
She is
tells her
3
to.
years
Like,
old.
is she allowed to use that excuse if she's a hyper intelligent super being?
No, she's hyper intelligent. She doesn't know what a tomato is.
That's
Real
true.
quick. She's a really good.
That's another database problem there. They've dropped a table somewhere and she's forgotten what a
She's a
tomato
really good
is.
scanner. Like she can read she can read
Yeah.
a dictionary really quickly. But that's about it. And then Picard and Soji beam up, and we get a little sting of the Next Generation theme.
Reminded me of Better Days.
Yeah, me and Aaron was singing it, weren't we? Yeah.
The whole
I mean, it's not as good as the Enterprise theme, but
nothing's
whatever.
as good as the Enterprise thing. You know, you can't beat that. It's a shame they didn't do like an
It's a
evil Death Metal
masterpiece.
version for the Mirror Universe episodes. Did you like it?
Yes.
To be
I
reductive?
think
Yeah.
it's either my favorite episode or my second favorite episode. I think this series is still very weird to me. I think there's been a lot of stupid decisions that mean that even some of the good moments are tainted. But
Definitely.
I had a good time with Frakes. I thought it was great that I thought that was handled very well. It was unfortunate they didn't have the good graces to do the same thing they did last time, or like in episode 5, and not have the Elnos stuff. I felt that it felt a bit arbitrary to have sort of like a you should be more compassionate combined with samurai fistfight action.
I think what I liked about this episode was that it's finally solidified to me which characters I like and which characters I think are absolutely terrible. I feel like I've got the bead is locked on. Soji sucks. Elrond sucks.
It also felt like we're entering the end game now. I feel like this is going to be the people are moving towards what has to be sort of like a final confrontation. Everyone's stopped being deceptive. I and again, like the Romulans at this point are like comically deceptive. So I look forward to them actually being a pursuing force rather than a faffing about force.
Yeah, they are a bit too on the edgy, mysterious side. I mean, so far they haven't actually done a lot.
The thing is, they've had everyone dead, like, because
Killed
of that
Darge.
Agnes Durati flashback, we've seen that they've had them dead to rights the entire time, and they've just sort of faffed.
Yeah.
And again, I understand that you can say it's because they're trying to activate and get to the homeworld and stuff, and I feel like we're on that. We're now on the chase to this homeworld, presumably one of two, at least, Bruce Maddox labs.
Lieutenant Rat herself complains about the faffing. She's like, look, we've done enough of this mind nonsense. It's time to start shooting people.
And again, this is one of the things that this show, more than anything, has done to compound about Romulan society, is that it is secret to the point of inefficiency. A funny character trait, I guess, for a civilization. And again, I get that it's been compounded by the destruction of Romulus, and they've become even more insular and weird.
I want a fucking spaceship to shoot another spaceship.
Yeah, that as well.
Yeah, severely lacking in a space battle. And we had that a little scrap, didn't we?
A 7 of 9.
That's a good
Oh
scrap.
yeah.
But
Did Elnor? Can you
Daddy
back me up
Hungry.
on this, Alec? Elnor,
Sorry, yeah.
like the SOS. Did that say Fenris on it?
Yeah.
Fenris SOS.
Yeah, yeah.
Perfect.
it's the token that 7 of 9 gave them when
Yeah,
just before
I thought
she,
so. Yeah, I would actually be interested to see more of the Fenris Rangers in general, because I thought they sounded like an interesting idea. I like the idea of what would fill a power vacuum when the Federation left a place, because
Hello?
we've not seen that before.
I would put good money on that not being mentioned, and it's just going to be 7
Well, a man can hope.
At this point in the podcast, Alec's ship was unfortunately attacked by Klingon warbirds. Despite his begging for mercy, they deemed him a useless hostage and promptly executed him by anal photon blast. The Klingon Empire apologises for this interruption.
Thanks for listening. Like, subscribe, smash that like button, set a phases to next time. Wink.
Unfortunately, Alec has died, and therefore we need you to like and subscribe in his memory and donate to the following Kickstarter, AlecIsDead.com.
Subscribe to our Patreon, alexdead.patreon.kickstarter.
If you donate enough, we can clone him so that he
We
can.
can make him into a positronic
Yeah,
brain.
we can take a single neuron of his positronic network and create someone who knows nearly as much about Doctor Who and Star Trek and finish the podcast series.
See you next time on Star Trek: Chapman.
We've been Check for Traps.